This is the Coming Home Podcast with John Allen. Boom, and welcome everybody to this episode of Coming Home with John Allen, the radio program, and Coming Home with John Allen, the podcast. We're coming at you from two different platforms here today, and I am extremely blessed, fortunate, happy to have Benjamin with me today. This has been something I've been wanting to do for quite some time. How you doing, Benjamin?
I'm doing fine, John. How are you doing?
You know, I'm doing well. It's the holiday season. The way I look at it, whether people celebrate Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or none of the above, there's nothing wrong with getting into a spirit of giving, a spirit of brotherhood. To me, that's what the holiday season is all about. So that's where
especially after the past few years we've been having, I think it's kind of necessary that we celebrate something, you know?
You know, that's a very good point, especially because of the way things have been going for the last few years. You know, we're two Americans over here in Norway, but we have our eye back on our home nation and we see what's going on. How do you feel about that? To me, there's just this weird sense of helplessness. Being over here and just watching all that craziness going on back home.
But actually, I don't feel helpless, John, because I follow quite a few programs that are actually working to make changes. And there's one nonprofit organization called I Can. It's like I Consent, Informed Consent Action Network. Okay. And I've been donating to them. So I think the key is that we have to be active. We have to be active. And I've been donating to them, and they have been fighting these lawsuits against all of these illegal mandates, against all of these illegal school board decisions. So I don't feel helpless. I feel good because I feel like I've been on the winning side, and I really feel like the majority of the people are against all of these illegal mandates, all these things that are going on, but like the media is not showing it. So it can make you feel helpless because they will cover some other stories. But yeah, I don't feel that way.
If we were to end the show right now, it would be a success just because you said that. I've gone from feeling hopeless to feeling optimistic.
Yeah, you just have to be part of the
just because of what you said.
Part of the causes that you believe in. You know, you got to support the causes you believe in.
And that's a reminder, people, to anybody who's listening. You've got to get involved. You can just sit back and be depressed and frustrated and angry, or you can get involved. You know, I try to do that through my show. And I tell you, it's an up and down thing. Sometimes I'm really motivated. Sometimes I'm really frustrated. But it's comments like what you just made that bring me back around and motivate me. Yeah. So thank you for that. So again, if we were to end the show right now, if we were to just have like a 2-minute clip of just you saying that, that's enough right there.
I'm happy I could help.
Hey, thank you. That's what we're here for. That's what we're here for. Yeah. You know, you're a really inspiring person to me. Can you talk a little bit about the work that you have done the last few years up at Svalbard? If you can take us back to what brought you up to Svalbard, and then just tell your story and bring us up to where you are today.
I would like to go a little further back and just speak about my life in the States, if possible.
Sure,
and
absolutely.
I just introduce myself. I'm Benjamin Vidmar, and I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, in the USA. It was a very interesting city, and I kind of moved all around a lot because my parents got divorced very young, so I spent a lot of time at different houses and that kind of situation. So, I have to say, Cleveland, now that I really miss it. At the time, I always wanted to go overseas when I was growing up. And I can remember being in high school, sitting in a class like in my senior year, or I don't remember exactly what year it was, but I was always looking. We had this huge world map in the front of the class. And I would just always stare at that map and just look at all of the countries around the world and just wonder, I wonder what it's like there. I wonder what it's like there. And half the time I wouldn't even be paying attention to what the teacher was saying. I'm just looking at this map, dreaming about going places.
From an early age.
And I had because I'm mixed. So my dad is white, my mom's black, and we grew up in very multicultural neighborhoods. So I've always had friends from all over the world, basically. You know, it was a very diverse kind of way that I grew up. And so I got to see both sides, all the sides of everything, basically. And that's kind of what I think contributed to me being who I am. Is just the parents that I had, the way that we grew up. And we didn't have much. We weren't wealthy or anything like that. No. But we made the best of what we had. And I really have to give credit to my mother, Mia, and my grandmother, Catherine. They are the most foodie people that I have ever met. Anywhere I've been in the world, I've never met people like my mom and my grandmother. They would always eat good. No matter how much money we had, they would go buy fresh fish. We never ate frozen fish. Really? I didn't eat frozen fish until I started working on ships, until I moved to Svalbard. That's when I started to eat frozen fish. Before that, we would go to the market. We would buy fresh fish every day. I remember going with my grandmother. This was like back in the 90s, I guess, 80s, 90s, when we would go to like in the East Cleveland, they had this Chinese kind of butcher. They would butcher the chickens for you. There, you would go, they butcher the chicken, you take home a fresh chicken. And I would just remember that experience and just how serious they were about food, and how we would like go every day to the West Side Market. We would buy our food from there. It was just like, my mom had her garden. I just grew up with a very foodie family. You know,
you're reminding me of a few, because I'm from Ohio as well.
Yeah,
further Akron, south, right? Well, outside of Akron, little country town called Norton. But as you speak about the markets in Cleveland, and as you speak about the fresh fish in Cleveland, it's reminding me that yes, there was the opportunity for fresh fish in the North Coast, Ohio, up against Lake Erie there.
Cleveland is a foodie town. People sleep on Cleveland, but it's a foodie town. We have all the different neighborhoods. We have all the different cultures. So Cleveland is definitely a foodie town.
That's right. That's right. I'm glad you said that. That's a good reminder for me.
Yeah. And so like just the way we grew up, my mom had a garden. It was just always part of me, just food. But I kind of took it for granted. You know, every holiday we get together, they would just cook, make this delicious food. And like my grandmother was very strict. So she wouldn't let us in the kitchen when she was in there. Like I wanted to learn, I wanted to see, and she wouldn't let kids in there. She would always kick us out. So it was kind of hard to learn from her. But it just kind of inspired me. And my mom was also married. My stepfather was from Italy. So he was a very foodie guy as well. And like, I remember when I was like going to school and like all the kids would have these perfect little white bread sandwiches and, you know, and these cute little lunches. And my stepfather would go to the baker every day, buy fresh bread, and he would get like mortadella, all of these beautiful Italian sliced meats from the butcher, and like I would go with him. So this was an experience, but I was embarrassed of that stuff. Like I was eating good because the sandwiches were huge. The sandwiches were huge, and he would wrap them in paper. And like I felt weird, you know. I felt weird, but like
it was different. It was different. Not everybody would eat like that.
No, because everybody had like perfect, you know, the white bread loaves, and it was just like, it was just weird. But at the time I was embarrassed. And like I would just kind of hide it, and you know, it's just how we are. It's like the culture makes us like that. When you're doing something different, you feel weird. You know, it's like it's just normal to feel like that. So like it's just basically what I'm trying to say is that like I had all of these beautiful food experiences, and just, you know, it didn't take much money. It just made me realize that we didn't have to have much money to eat like that. And like my family, we wouldn't eat typical American dinners like turkeys, hams. We would eat like seafood, like Italian style New Year's and Christmases, and calamari, and like just amazing things, fish soup. So this really kind of led me to I went in 1997, I traveled to Malaysia. I actually wanted to go to Africa because I just wanted to leave the States. I wanted to see the world, and I wanted to go to Africa. But I had a lot of African friends that were like, no, we don't recommend it. It's a very different life there. And, you know, because I was very naive and I was very innocent, and, you know, I guess that's what they were thinking. I could easily get rolled, you know, I could easily get taken advantage of. So they were like, no, we don't recommend it. But I was going to go anywhere. I didn't care. And then they were like, no, we have friends in Malaysia who are at this university, and we can help you get there because you want to. They knew I wanted to travel. Okay. So I ended up in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, 1997.
That's amazing.
I was a student.
How old were you? How old were you at that time?
I was like 18, 19, like something like that. Yeah, I had just graduated. I graduated in 2000 and, oh shit, which year did I graduate? I think 2000 and, I'm confused. 2002. No, it's 1996. I think I graduated. 1996. Yeah. And then
it's a gutsy move to go that far to that country.
I had to, John. I had to go. I felt like, for me, I don't know how you felt when you were back home, but I think it's more difficult being mixed in the States. Because for me, I feel in the States, everything is about race. We use so much energy. We're so consumed with race. Yeah. And it's easy when you're one or the other, because then the poles are set. But when you're mixed, it's like you never fit in here, you never fit in there. It's like, you know, and then it's like I have to work 3 times as hard, and then I get confused. Okay, well, I don't fit here, but my dad is like this, my mom is like this.
Well, I grew up in a mixed family as well, so I can identify with that. Yeah,
it's challenging, you know. And I always felt growing up in States, especially in Cleveland. I mean, like I said, it's a beautiful foodie city, but it's probably one of the most racist places in the world.
Cleveland is extremely segregated.
Yes. Yeah. And so, like, for me, growing up, I felt I used so much energy dealing with race and dealing with, you know, oh my God, can I do this because I look like this? Can I go there? Because it just took a lot of energy out of me, and I didn't like it. And that's why I wanted to go. That's why I wanted to leave. And so then I went to Malaysia. I got accepted at a university there. And then I went there for 1 year. But the thing was, I really didn't plan which program I would study. So I kind of got accepted for accounting. And I'm not an accountant kind of person.
Okay. No.
So for me, it was like I was excited to get accepted, but I wasn't really happy with the program. So like I stopped going to classes, and I was just hanging out, and I started to work. And I was like teaching English. I was working as a server in a Turkish restaurant. And like, it just was experience. It was a great experience, regardless if I went to school or not. I just met so many interesting people. I saw so many interesting things. And then I was working in this Turkish restaurant. And like, of course, a server, you have to be very, you know, serious, and you're in front of the guests. Yeah. But I would look in the kitchen, and this was back in the days, like, you know, when the chefs, they were smoking in the kitchen, these like Turkish guys, you know, they were smoking in the kitchen, laughing. Laughing, having fun. And like, I was just looking back like, wow, these guys are having all the fun, you know, like we're out here being serious and they're having all the fun. So somehow it was like 11 months later, almost 1 year, and my mom contacted me. I was like, because I was a mama's boy, like, you know, so basically I did what my mom said. I did what my mom said, you know, no matter how old. Yeah. So she was like, well, what the hell are you doing? Are you in school? Are you not in school? I said, no, I'm not in school. I'm just working and hanging out. She said, working and hanging out? You can do that here. Get your ass back home. So I went back home after like 11 months. And then I was trying to, you know, figure out what to do with my life after that. And it came down to 2 choices. I don't know how it came down to these 2 choices, but my stepfather, he was a mason, concrete mason in the union. So it was, I could either get a union job with him, or I could go to culinary school. I don't know how it came to those choices, but that's what I had to choose between. And I said, well, you know, it's nice. They make a lot of money in the union, but I don't really like working outside in the summer in that heat. I was like, that's not really my style. So I was like, I'm going to go to culinary school. So then it was in motion. I got somehow planned that I got accepted to the school in Pennsylvania. It was called Pennsylvania Culinary at the time that I went there. But then I think they changed the name to Le Cordon Bleu. But then they went out of business and they closed down some years after that.
Okay.
But anyways, I went to school there. I think that was in 1998. Yeah, 1998. I was there in Pennsylvania. I finished the school.
What city in Pennsylvania?
Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Yeah, right in downtown Pittsburgh. They had this big culinary school there. And it was amazing. That was a really amazing experience. And then I met some really cool people, went to the culinary school. And then I finished culinary school and I moved back to Cleveland. And then I started to work because, of course, when you finish school, you're supposed to work. So I was working like crazy. I remember that I had to work very hard because I married very young. And I met my wife in Malaysia. And then I went back home. And then we kind of kept in touch. We weren't married at the time, but we kept in touch. Okay. And then she wanted to come with me. So then we got married. I went over there. We got married. Then she came back to U.S. with me. And then, it was just... It was an interesting experience because she was like a very, her family, I don't know what it was, but she really missed her home so much. And, you know, I don't know if you have much experience with like Asian people, but it's hard for them to eat other food. They can only eat their food.
That's very true. I lived on Okinawa, Japan for two and a half years. So, yeah, that is one thing that I noticed, not just there on Okinawa, but other Asian people. You know, in the Far East, they're very... And
I don't mean it in any bad way.
No, but they have their food. That's what they eat. Period. Yeah.
So it's like, you know, I'm thinking like especially coming from a foodie family, we can try this, I can try this, but she couldn't try anything. And she would always complain that, oh, I need this, I need my food. And then she missed her family. So it's like, it didn't work out so well.
Right.
We had 3 beautiful children. No, we had a boy who's now 22, Amir, and then we had twins, a boy and a girl, Alif and Layla.
Wow,
they live in Tromsø. So Layla's in university now, and Alif, he's a chef apprentice. He's working at the Mat Holland restaurant there. So
it's a beautiful city, by the way.
Yeah. So I'm so happy that it worked out for them. And that was one of the main reasons why I had to stay so long on Svalbard, was because I wanted them to finish school. I didn't want to keep, bouncing around.
Let's back up a little bit though. What brought you to Norway? Now you have your wife. She's Malaysian.
Yeah.
You guys.
No, but okay. So then let's go back then. So I jumped way ahead. So it didn't work out so well with her, and then she went back home. I went to spend some time in Malaysia. We left the U.S. in 2005. 2005, I think it was. We left, and we had moved to Malaysia. And she was from the East Malaysia, Borneo. So we moved there. And we tried to make it work. I mean, of course, in a relationship, you want to try to make it work. So we went there, we tried to make it work, but it still wasn't getting better for me. And I just felt kind of trapped, but I wanted to do the right thing for the kids. So I started to work at a cooking school there. It was like a chef school or hotel school, whatever. And then I didn't have an expat package though. I had a local package. So that meant that I didn't make much money, but it was enough. Of course, if we ate rice and, we lived normal, like simple, then it was okay. But for me, it wasn't so much about the money, because I was having great experience. I was teaching English. I was working at this restaurant, and I was working at the school. So I've always been working very hard.
Yeah.
And that's what I forgot to mention about when I was in Cleveland, was that I had 2 full-time jobs. So I worked the daytime at a private club as a chef, and then I worked overnight as a baker in a bakery in Lakewood.
Man, so you were really getting your sweat on then.
Yeah, wow. Man. So I've always worked, and I had 2 full-time jobs, and for me, I'm jumping around here, John, but that's okay. Yeah, you know how the memories.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
No format here. No format.
I have to go back to Cleveland, because that was one of the main reasons why I wanted to leave. So, I was working like a maniac, but it's quite normal in the chef business. You have to kind of, because you don't make much money in the beginning, and then you have to. And I had a family. I had a son already, and I had to kind of take care of everything. So then I was working in the daytime at a private club, overnight at a bakery. And a terrible day is I had to work both jobs at the same time. Yeah. Then that means I only had a few hours in between, and there was no point to drive home. So I would just kind of park the car and just relax in the car and then go to the next job. And then a good day would be if I only had to work one, but then a perfect day would be if I'm free from everything, which was very rare.
I can imagine.
So normally I'm just parked in the car in between jobs, and I would just read these magazines, permaculture magazines, or backwoods country, where you self-sufficient people who live off the grid.
Okay, so you got an interest for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but I would read it, John, like science fiction. I'm thinking, I'm working 20 hours a day. How can people just do this? How can someone just go and just be off grid, or just go to Brazil and take these courses? And I'm so when I was reading, I couldn't but figure it out, because of my life. I'm running, I'm running. I couldn't imagine stopping what I was doing.
Right. And you're in the middle of this big industrial city, and here you're reading about people being off the grid, further out in nature. And
so it was always my dream to go to Brazil and take this 2-week course and learn all this stuff. But I'm thinking, man, when do I have time? And over there, as you know, we don't have this 4 weeks holiday like they have here.
Right.
You on holiday, and your boss can still call you and still bother you.
I know people.
Otherwise, if you don't,
I know people back home who are in their middle 30s, early 40s, and they've never had more than a 5-6 day vacation.
No,
that's
because
sad.
You can get fired, man. You can get fired. You can get fired for not. Yeah. So I just couldn't believe it. I'm how can people do this? It doesn't seem real. So I would just read them, and I enjoyed reading them because I would see the beautiful pictures and get all these ideas. So that was kind of my life. I was working 2 full-time jobs. I would read these magazines in between, and then I would go home and take care of the family and do all of this. So then when we finally moved to Malaysia in 2005, I got the job at the cooking school. it was cool. But like I said, I didn't have an expat package, which means tax-free US dollars. And for people who don't understand what that means. So normally when a US or someone from the West works in the places like Malaysia, then you get a different package where it's US dollar. You get paid in US dollars and it's tax-free. Yeah. I didn't get that package. No. So I just had the local package, which means that I got paid in the local money and then I paid tax.
A little more struggle.
Yeah. But anyways, like I said, it was experience for me and I made the most of it. But the thing that I couldn't deal with was, I don't know how you were in Asia, but when I was there, it's normal to pay late in Asia. So normally people get paid 2 weeks late. I don't know why, but that's just how it is. And for me, because I would complain and I wasn't from there, then it would be like 1 week late that they would pay me. Yeah. But I mean, it's one thing you're going to pay me peanuts, but I want my peanuts on time.
Give me my peanuts on time. Yeah.
So like they would pay late. And like after 3 months of it, I just kind of got fed up and I started to look around for other opportunities. And then I don't know how I found it, but I saw this one opportunity that said work in Antarctica. And I said, wow, what is this? And
so you've already made this big change from Cleveland to Malaysia. And now all of a sudden this falls in front of you to make another change from Malaysia to the Arctic. Yeah. Tell me about this.
And I have to say also from Cleveland, like I have to say, I never really liked winters when I was in Cleveland. I always liked the sun. I always liked the summers.
Cleveland is brutal.
Yeah. Yes.
Cleveland so I wanted to get brutal in the wintertime.
My goal was to get away from the winters. Okay. So that's why Malaysia sounded very good to me. It was very tropical, and that's why it was okay. And then when I saw the Antarctica thing, I said, okay, what is this about? Because I didn't know much about Antarctica, to be honest. I had never really heard of it. I didn't know anything about the Arctic. I didn't really care because those were colder places in my mind. You know what I mean? So I never really invested time.
Colder than Cleveland.
But I was curious because this was ship work and they were looking for like hotel staff to work on expedition cruise ships going from Ushuaia in Argentina to Antarctica. Wow. So I sent my details, but it's a lot of scams out there. So I didn't know if it was real. I didn't know if it was what it was, but I just sent it anyway, because that's kind of how I am. Like, I'm not afraid to take a chance. And that's kind of why things have kind of happened the way they did, because I just try. I'm like, whatever, if it works, if it doesn't work. And then I sent my details and then the lady contacted me back straight away. So that's what made me, my meter started to I thought it was something fishy, because straight away she contacted me back. And she was like, yeah, I would like to interview you for this position and blah, blah. I guess they were desperate, So I guess it's hard to find people to do these kind of things but before that I didn't know. But now I see that.
But it kind of makes sense because there's very few people who have that sense of adventure that you have.
I guess you're right.
I moved from the States, from my place back home, here to Norway, and people lost their minds. They couldn't believe I was doing what I see now as a simple move, but something like what you were doing, already coming from Cleveland to Malaysia, and now this job opportunity in the Antarctic. I get that. I get it that people kind of, there's not a lot of people who think in that way. There's not a lot of people with that adventurous mindset.
I think what it is that, because I noticed that people only think of people like from New York or from California doing those type of things. They just don't expect us to do those kind of things, Right. But I think there's a lot of people who want to do that, but it's more challenging to do it when you're from the smaller places, I guess, or when you're from places like Ohio or I don't know. I'm sure people do it, but
it's just not as common as one would think. But I will say this: the people who I look among the other Americans here in Norway, or not even just Americans, just expats from other countries here in Norway, and we're different. I'm not saying we're better, but we are different. There is a sense of adventure. There is this entrepreneurial spirit that we have. There is this artistic, there's a lot of musicians and painters and stuff who do that kind of stuff. So I think it's a different mindset that makes us definitely a little bit unusual to the average people. I don't want to say average. That makes it sound like I'm putting them down, but it kind of sets us apart, and people look at us a little bit sideways when we make these rather dramatic decisions.
I agree. That's a good way to sum it up. Yeah. What was I saying, John?
The job interview for the Antarctic. Yeah. So
she contacted me, and she was like, "Yes, we want to interview you for this position. We're looking for people to start working from. I think they start in October, because it's summer there now. So they start from October and finish in like February or March or something like that. So yeah, I was just interviewing with her, and then she said, okay, great. Everything looks good. You're hired. And I was like, huh? I'm hired? Just like that? She was like, yeah, just like that. I was like, okay. And she was like, do you want to be the head chef or the sous chef? And I was like, the head chef, of course.
Of course.
She said, okay. She was like, okay, you're hired. We're going to send you all the details. And I thought it was a joke, John. I thought it was a joke. I was like, okay, yeah, okay, great. Send everything to me.
It sounds like it happened really quick. What kind of a time?
It did.
What kind of time frame are we talking about from the time you applied to the time you actually got the offer?
I would say weeks. I don't remember exactly, but I would say days to weeks. Days to weeks.
That's
John.
just mind blowing, man.
Because I think it was a short. I think it was a short deadline.
Yeah.
So I think I can't remember exactly, but it happened very quickly.
Even with your adventurous attitude, that spirit of wanting to explore, I can imagine it took you for a spin when all of a sudden this opportunity is here in front of you.
Yeah, and that's how life is. That's what I find out, that things don't take it like how we think it's going to work out.
Well, we have to get out there and make things happen. You were searching for opportunities, and I believe that that's as simple as that is. It's very difficult to do at the same time because people get very, go back to when we first started talking now during this conversation where I said, oh my gosh, I expressed my frustration with the world situation today. And that is an example of me looking inward and not keeping my eyes open on the horizon, looking for opportunity, looking for brightness in the darkness.
That's true.
So it's easy to miss out on simple things. And it's really very simple to see an opportunity in a newspaper or wherever you saw that job opportunity and apply for it. That is a simple process. But our own closed-mindedness, negative thinking can cause us to not see these opportunities.
That's right.
Am I right?
That's a great way to sum it up. That's a great way.
So you have that adventurous spirit that you It guides you. It pulls you through times where you could be frustrated, because I can imagine it was not easy in Malaysia. I can imagine that you had a lot of frustration there, but you were still looking for opportunities, and that's true. Is what sets you apart. You
made me remember it now, because I've never really, how we block the things that are they're painful to us, and when you said that, it just kind of opened up some emotion. I was like, I was really like, I was going every day to the internet cafe looking for jobs. Every day when I would finish work, I would go. So it wasn't like, when you say it like that, it didn't come so easy, because it took me a lot of searching. But the way it happened, I say it was like easy, because it was surprising to me how long it took to get there, and then how quick it moved after that. If it's a good way to sum it up. So she said, we're going to send you all the details to your email and this and that, and we're going to send you tickets. We're going to fly you to Cape Town, and then you will meet the ship, and you will sail down to Montevideo. And she's saying it, I'm just like, yeah, because I didn't believe it. I'm not lying. I didn't believe it. I thought it was a joke.
I can imagine.
And then sure enough, they sent the electronic tickets to my email, the itinerary, the contract, everything came. And I was
that's
like,
when it hit.
Shit.
Is that when it hit?
This is real. I was like, this is real. I'm going. So I was like, then I got excited after that. I signed the contract. I did everything. And what was nice about it was that they used Russian research vessels. So it was European companies, and and the first company was an Australian company, but they would subcharter Russian research vessels. So that meant that the crew was Russian. Okay. The crew had the responsibility for the ships. So I was just a passenger. I would be on the passenger manifest, but we would take care of the passengers.
I see.
So I shared the galley with the Russian chefs, and they cooked for the crew, and we took care of the passengers.
Okay.
But I'm really happy it happened that way, because it's a difference when your crew, like, you have so many rules, you can't mix with the passengers. So I wasn't crew, I was staff. And that meant that I got a bar allowance. I could go to the bar, and then I got an allowance in the bar. I could mix with the guest. I could mix with the crew, because it's also, the guest can't mix with the crew.
I see. So you were in a position where you had access to both groups of people. Okay.
Staff can go anywhere. We had all access. So it was amazing. And then we got paid in US dollars, and then we got a daily rate. And then we also got tips. So it's like your salary would just go to the bank account. You wouldn't see that to the end. They would just pay you all this money at the end, and we would live off of our tips.
Sure.
So it was amazing. So they flew me to Cape Town. I met the ship there. It was a small ship, like I think 100 passengers or something like that. And we sailed down to Montevideo. It was amazing. It was just an amazing experience. And I was there for 5 months. And I was the head chef, and I had like 2 assistants. And that's what started it, you know? Yeah, that's what started it.
That alone is a heck of an experience. I get excited listening to that, man.
So then I was like doing that for 5 months. We sailed down to Ushuaia. It's like the southernmost city in the world. It's like right at the tip of Argentina. And then it's like a 2-day sail to Antarctica from there. And then we're like 6 days, we move around Antarctica, different landing places, and then 2 days to go back to port. So you do that. We had like, that's a 10-day trip. And then we had like 1 or 2 18-day trips. When you start in Ushuaia, then you go to like South Georgia and the Falkland Islands. Yeah, then you sail that way, and then you sail down, and then you sail home, or, you know, something like that. That was an 18-day trip. So we did that for 5 months. And they were quite happy with what we did. And so they were like, okay, you did a great job. Where do you want to go? Because it's like they have to fly you to the ship, and they have to fly you away from the ship.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, send me back to Asia. Send me back to Malaysia, of course, because then I got paid in US dollar. I could just go back and just relax, and you live the life, you know?
Right.
So they were like, okay, we're going to fly you back. But they're like, do you want to go to the Arctic for the next season? We want you to work with us again. I said, oh, okay, sure. So they had 2 ships. They had one that went to the Canadian Arctic and one that went to the Scandinavian Arctic. And that was the one that went to Svalbard. So I was like, yeah, sure. So then they flew me home. I had a 2-month holiday, and then they flew me to Longyearbyen. And then like we met the ship there, and we sailed around there for 2 months. And then you had another break, and then you could go back to Antarctica if you wanted. So that is how I came to Svalbard for the first time. And I think that was in 1997. No, 2007. I'm confusing the dates here. 2007 was when I first, because first I went to Antarctica, and then I went to the Arctic after that. And then when I first went to Longyearbyen, it was like such a strange place. And I was like, what kind of place is this? There's no trees.
I have to tell you, one of my dreams is, and I've done a lot of things since I've been here in Norway, and I do everything I can to enjoy myself. But one dream that I have not fulfilled yet is to set foot on Svalbard. Longyearbyen.
I highly recommend it.
I really am looking forward to this part of our discussion where you tell me about your time up there.
Yeah, it's a really special place, and it's just I went there, and I was just like, I was taking it all in, and it's just like such a beautiful place. It's like you're on another planet. Actually, it's really like you're on another planet, because it doesn't seem like anywhere on Earth. And it was just no trees. It's just stone. It's cold, and we go in the summer. So I was still sticking to my plan, because my plan was to follow the summers and to be where it's always warm.
Yes.
So in Antarctica, we only go in the summertime. And then in the Arctic, we only go in the summertime. So I was still kind of sticking to my plan. And then in between, I would stay in Borneo, which was beautiful.
Yeah.
So I was like away from the Ohio winters, and I was enjoying my life. And then I went there. We did the 2-month season. And then I went back to Borneo. And I think at this time, it was like getting really much more difficult between my ex-wife and I. And we kind of just like separated. But of course, I did everything I could. I did everything to take care of my kids. Those were my kids, and I took care of them. So I would send her money and spend time with them. When I finished, then I would go back there and spend time with them. And then what happened I got another contract. I went to Antarctica again, and then I'm trying to think where I met my wife now. We met in the Arctic, I think. Yeah, we met in the Arctic, because I can't remember. I think it was 2000. Anyways, my wife now, I'm married now to a lady, and we have a daughter together, and she's 10 years old. And we met on a ship in the Arctic in Svalbard, because we worked together. No, we met, I'm confused. I think we met in Antarctica or Arctic. I'm sorry, John, I can't remember all the details. But anyways,
on a ship though, somewhere.
Yeah, we met on the ship, and like, we met in Antarctica, I think. And then she went back, and I went back. Like I went back to Borneo, and she went back home. But I was telling her about this Svalbard place, because I found out I found out that it was open for everybody because of the treaty. So you have people there from all over the world.
Yeah.
You don't need any work visas. You don't need any visa to go there. You just go there, you find a job, and you work. And another positive is that the tax is only like 16.2%. So you still make kind of the similar salaries, but you can save a lot of money there.
Yes.
So it it was like a very interesting thing. And I was telling her, like, she's from a big city in Russia, Kaliningrad. It's near the Poland, near Gdansk, this Oblast. Yeah, so she's from a big city. And when I told her, oh, we should go to this Longyearbyen place. And she was like, are you crazy? I can never go to that place. And I was like, well, you know, it's just a thought. I was telling her like how the people work there. Yeah. So I kind of planted the seed. And then somehow she got a job offer there and I got a job offer there. But I kind of chickened out because when I found out how cold it was, you know, I told you I didn't want to go to the winters.
That's right. Yeah.
So of course on the ship we went in the summer, but in the winter there it can get down to minus 30, minus 40. So I was like, okay, maybe this is not going to work for me. So I kind of chickened out and said, I'm sorry, I can't go. You know, I just can't do it. And she was pissed because we already like planned to take the job. Yeah. So she still went. She took her job. And then I started to feel kind of bad. So then I was like, okay, I mean, I can't really do it like that. So then I agreed and I took the job and I went there like a month after or something. And then she started working at the base camp hotel there. And I started working as a cook at the Radisson Hotel there. And it was like seasonal work. It's all seasonal work there mainly. So it's like from February until October you work. And then the rest of the time you travel. So yeah, that first year was so cold. I just remember like I would just, especially coming from Borneo, I didn't even have the proper clothes. You know what I mean?
I can imagine. Oh, man.
So like I just would run to work. After work, I would run home. I wouldn't hang out around outside. I would just run home.
Did you have, what kind of housing did you have? Was it a house or was it an apartment complex?
Like an apartment provided by the company. Okay. Like they provide the housing. It's really tough on Svalbard to get any kind of housing. Yeah. It's usually tied to your position.
Right.
So like if you're this position, you take the house, and then when you leave, whoever takes that position takes over the house, basically.
Isn't there some? Aren't there some different kind of safety issues because of the polar bears?
Yeah, and John,
everybody has to be armed at all times.
If you go outside of the settlement, if you go outside of the town, normally in the town, it's not a problem because like the bears, like there's like people who are further away and they know when the bears are coming, and there's usually people who are everybody's watching for them. Yes. But you have to be careful because they can, like there's times when they run right through the center of the town. Yeah. But normally, usually the doors are open. So if anything like that, you just run into any building. Usually the front door needs to be open. Okay. Like the main doors need to be open so you can just run in. And so then we moved there. We kind of, and of course she's Russian and I'm from the US. So otherwise it's very difficult for us in Europe unless you go through all of these hoops and get everything. But it was very easy there. We still made the money. We paid less tax. So our routine was that we would work, February to October, and then we would just travel the rest of the year. Yeah. We would go back to Borneo, spend time with my kids. We would do like a lot of traveling. So it was a really good life. Like we would work part of the year, travel part of the year.
Well, it sounds like a beautiful life.
Yeah. It was amazing. It was amazing. We were just talking about like how now it's so difficult to travel, and we were just talking about that yesterday, how beautiful it was to how the good old days when we used to be so easy to travel. So, now it's totally different times.
Now the job you were doing, the work you were doing on Svalbard, was it satisfying to you?
I think so, because I enjoyed it, and it was like good to meet different people. And there's like, it's not cheap to go to Svalbard. It's like you have to have some money, and it's usually like older people who come there because it's usually people who've done everything.
I see.
And then that's kind of like the last thing you do. And it's the same with Antarctica because those cruises are expensive, and it's like normally you find people who have done everything because unless somebody who really, really loves the Arctic and the polar and this and that, they come, but it's not cheap. So you don't find too many younger people, especially on the cruises. My experience, that it was mostly older people who would do it. And so we got to meet a lot of really interesting people, but living on Svalbard was kind of like living on a ship because you can't really go anywhere. It's only a flight to get in and out. Yeah. And it's like, for me, it was the same like working on a ship because you work together and then the people tend to hang out together and then you get your cliques and then, and people are always together. Yeah. So it's the same way on the ship, you work and then you go to the bar together. I would imagine
it's a different sense of community there because there's not so much to do. It's very difficult to travel to and from. So yeah, I can imagine that you have your work relationships, which then bleed over into the social relationships. would imagine, from what I hear anyway, pretty much everybody gets along up there, because if you come into conflict with somebody, it's different because you're practically right on top of each other. So they say it's a really open and pleasant social situation up there. Am I right? And
the thing about it is that because of the dangers with the polar bears and this and that, it's like one big community. Everybody's kind of, and I mean, overall, everybody's working together. And that's one thing that I really liked, because I didn't experience that in any other place. And like on Svalbard, if you lose your wallet, if you lose your bank card, you lose your phone, somebody will find it and post it in the Facebook group.
Okay.
Like, I've never been in a city where people are looking out for each other like that, you know? So it's like, and another thing about Svalbard is that people are only there because they want to be there.
Yes.
You don't find people who say, it's okay, because they leave.
Yeah.
They go. So then you get this really positive energy, and it's like everybody's excited, and you know, and then you have this high transient population where people are always coming and going. So you always have new ideas, new energy, new people. So it can be good and bad, because like in the beginning, it's amazing because you're meeting all these cool people. But then after a while, when you're there for so long, you start to hurt because people are leaving all the time. So then you start to, you know, build up this kind of defense where you don't get too close to people because you know they're going to leave. You know?
I got to tell you something. That is a real thing. That separation anxiety from social situations and friendships. I got a taste of that when I was in the U.S. Marines, and people would be coming and going. You get close to these guys, and then all of a sudden they're gone.
Yeah.
And after a while, it's almost sad, because after a while you kind of get to you start to become this person that doesn't invest in friendship anymore.
Yeah. Because it's like, it takes time and energy.
It does.
You start to say, why should I do it when they're just going to leave?
Yeah.
You know, you start to balance, you start to weigh it. Like, is it worth me investing in?
Yeah. And when you're in those isolated group situations, like in a military unit or on Svalbard, friendship is different. It's more intense.
Yes.
It means more to you, which then magnifies the pain when that person leaves, moves, or gets transferred. Yeah.
That's
so,
right.
And you know, it's a beautiful, you know, I still want to go to Svalbard. I don't know what kind of work I would do, but I still want to go there. But that is one thing that's in the back of my mind, is that anxiety about the social situation and how it will all just be torn apart eventually.
Yeah.
Just knowing that is it's a little rough.
But I think you have to look at it from like, I have to say, you know, when you first go, it's different than when you've been there for some time. So when you first go, what I found from my experiences, those relationships that you form, you keep them forever. Like some of the first people that we met when we went there, we still keep in touch with them. You know, so it's kind of like, it's like the same I've noticed from when you go on a cruise. I don't know if you've been on a cruise before.
I haven't, no.
Okay. Normally when you go on a cruise, you bond with these people and then you tend to keep in touch with them after. It's like a life-changing experience, you know?
That's true. And with social media and now things are kind of cut off when it comes to travel, but in general, traveling is fairly easy in normal times, and we have social media, so it can be an extended friendship even though they've moved somewhere else. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So a lot of the ones we met when we first went there, we still keep in touch. I mean, we're not like best friends or anything, but like we still contact. Yeah, definitely. And so,
talk to me about your interest in sustainable food production.
Yeah.
I had three guests from a hydroponic farming company on my podcast over the past year, talking about hydroponic farming and sustainable farming, and how to do things a little bit different with less of a carbon footprint, less destruction on society. And this is something that interested you in a certain aspect. Can you talk to me about that?
Yeah. So how it happened was that I have to take two steps back, John, because I was kind of leading into that, if that's okay. Sure. Yeah. So the thing about I have to go back to Svalbard, because the thing about Svalbard is that no one is really from there. Right. Everyone is from somewhere else. And because of how the treaty is set up and how all the countries agreed, Svalbard you have to extract resources. So that means everyone has to take from Svalbard. Otherwise you don't have any reason to be there. And also to be on Svalbard, you have to be able to take care of yourself. There's no nav, there's nav for certain people, but like you can't stay there forever. You can't retire there. Yeah. You can't, you have to be able to take care of yourself. So you have a younger population there. And then when people had enough, then they move on.
Yes.
So as I started to go back more and more, and as we started to take more contracts there, we started to look at it like home. It started to become my home. And of course, my dream was always to go back to the States, to Florida, because my mom had moved from Cleveland and she moved down to Florida. So I was spending more time in Florida, and I always loved Florida, because it's warm, and because, I remember my grandmother used to take me there when I was a kid. We would go visit cousins, and I remember how nice it was, how warm it was. So in between, like after, in 2011, up until 2011, we would always go to Malaysia to visit my kids. But after 2011, they wanted to move with me. So the whole time they were living with their mom, and then they decided they wanted to move with us. And we were a bit surprised because it was new for us. We never had that experience. I was used to being this father who would send money, go visit them, and then go and do whatever the hell I wanted to do. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when they said they wanted to move with us, we were kind of like, well, we never, I had to speak to my wife about it, of course. And she agreed. She said, yeah, why not? Let's try. So then when they moved with us in 2011, it was a whole nother experience. Then we weren't able to travel like we used to travel before because they're in school, and, it's a whole nother experience. So then it really became like my home when my kids had moved there. I saw it in a different light,
Yeah.
And then they stayed with us, but it was really, I have to be honest, Svalbard is not the easiest place. It's very extreme, and we have this dark season when you have 24 hours of dark, and everybody handles that differently,
Yeah.
And so my kids, it was a bit difficult for them at first. I think they stayed with us for 1.5 years the first time, and then they wanted to go back to their mom.
Okay.
And I was thinking like, okay, it's not like we live down the street. It's nice, but you guys can't keep going back and forth. It's a lot of tickets involved.
Right.
So then they went back to their mom, and then we kind of like we're at another point where I was like, okay, up until that point, all the free time I had, I would spend it in Malaysia with them.
Was that hard for you? Was that hard for you when they left and went back to their mother? How did you handle that?
Yeah, it was hard, but then it was also kind of like I felt that I did my part,
Yes.
I felt like it was easy just to be the father who sends money and just like, this. But then after they lived with us, we had 1.5 years experience of being with them all the time. It's a different
investment. Yeah.
And then I started to realize it's not about money. It's not about the things that I thought it was about. You know what I mean?
It's a different investment of love, of feelings.
Yes. Just cooking their meals and just making sure they go to school. And then I started to realize, I started to scratch my head. Like I was sending this lady a lot of money. And like, you know what I mean? I started to calculate everything. And I was thinking, I really didn't need to do, all of that. I could have just had them with me for the whole time. But anyways, then they went back, and then I kind of was like, okay, well, they wanted to go home. They went home. So then I was at another level. And then I told my wife, well, we don't need to go to Malaysia anymore because we did what we needed to do. Like we brought them here. They wanted to go back. They wanted to be with their mom. So then we started to go to Florida. I said, well, we can go to Florida then because we can go visit my mom, spend time with my family. And like we would go visit my wife's family in the summer because in Kaliningrad is very beautiful in the summer, but in the winter it's not so nice. So we had a very beautiful circuit. We would be in Svalbard most of the year. The summer we would go to Kaliningrad, Russia, and then the winter we would go to Florida.
Let me ask you something because Russia fascinates me.
Oh, it's beautiful.
The Russian people fascinate me. I've met and worked with a lot of Russian citizens, but then you always hear this thing that kind of depicts Russia as this scary, unwelcoming place. How did you experience the people of Russia when you were in Russia, you as a man of color? Because I hear a lot of stories of how Russia is very xenophobic. But for me, they're just stories. I don't know. I've never experienced it. Did you see any of that?
I think how it is, and this is like, I think it can be. And like, because I'm lighter skinned, so they don't realize I have people in my family who are darker than some of the, so like they don't know what to expect. But when I went to Russia, now I have a little afro, but I had my hair kind of grown like a big afro.
Okay. Yeah.
When I went to Russia, and like, of course, you have those people who are like that, but I would say they're the minority. And I would say that maybe the media focuses on them.
Yeah.
Because the majority of the people are very kind, and they're like, it's new for them. They don't have people like that. I mean, they have a few people like that there, but they don't know what to make of it.
So maybe Russia is just like it is in the United States. There's racist people there, but most people are good.
I think most people are good there because, for example, I can remember stories like just going out and like all of the Russian girls like trying to touch my hair, and my wife getting so jealous, and like they're just like looking at you like, what is this? Like, you know what I mean?
Curiosity. I can remember. I've been in Norway for almost 20 years now. I can remember the first time. If we go back to 2002, when we were traveling to our place up on Sealand, up in Finnmark. And back then, it was very rare to see a brown-skinned man up there. And I had little kids coming up to me, and I didn't speak Norwegian at the time, but my wife would translate. And these little kids would come up to me asking me why I'm brown. Why? As if, what happened? Why are you brown? And it was just this charming curiosity. That can't even be compared with racism. I think sometimes people get a little hung up on that. But I don't look at curiosity as racism. Curiosity is curiosity, and it can be charming. So I would imagine that kind of curiosity that I experienced as a black man up in Finnmark might be similar to what you experienced as a man of color in Russia. Curiosity. Yes. Simple curiosity.
And definitely there are some people who are like that, but I would say it's a minority compared to the people like that in the U.S. I would say there's more people like that in the U.S. And I would say and I would say that I wish that we as Americans would stop exporting our racism to the world, because many people around the world, they judge based on language. They don't even really. They see color, but it's not really a basis for them to determine like something. But
the way I look at it, everybody sees color. I don't believe these people when they say I don't see color. That's a ridiculous thing to say. Everyone sees it. The question is what do you do about it? How do you treat that person because of their color? Do you treat them like a man, or do you treat them like a black man, or do you treat them like a black man who you don't like because he's black? It's so there's all of that nuance there. My gut has always told me that these things that they say about, I've had enough life experience and I've met enough people to know that most people are good. I truly believe that most people are good. So that's the way I approach any new society or new group of people that I'm introduced to. I treat them as if they're going to treat me good, because that's what I expect that most people.
And what else do you have to base it off of? You have to do it like that because you don't have anything to base it off of, right? Like you don't know the person.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. We can't carry what happened to us before to a new relationship. It's not really fair.
Well, that's something that I like to speak on. I want to put the word of positivity and acceptance out there, because I just see more and more people slipping into this narrative that people are not to be trusted, and maybe I'm naive, but I still trust people until they give me a reason not to.
And you don't have any. I mean, that's the fairest way to do it.
I think so.
It's really not right for us to bring all of our baggage of something that happened to a new situation, and then you act differently when you're not trusting someone. Then of course you're going to act differently, and then they're going to feel it, and then it's just going to be like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
And you having all of these different experiences in all of these different countries, you've been around and you've seen that most people are good. You can't. I think that's why I believe that travel and exposure to different people and different cultures is so important, because I believe that an intelligent person who experiences that can't help but fall in love with humanity. And when that happens, there's no room for racism. There's no room for discrimination. So more people need to have this adventurous spirit that you have and this desire to meet people and get out there. I just wanted to say that, you know, big ups on you and the way you approach life, and more people need to do it like that. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
But
so where are we now? I'm confused.
We're jumping all over the place here. Hang with us, people. Hang with us. No, but my show is natural conversation, and this is what a natural conversation does. It jumps.
This is it. Yeah, this is it right here.
What I'd like to know is, okay, your children lived with you for a period. Then they moved back to Malaysia. We talked about how that affected you. It was kind of an eye-opener about your role in relationship with your children as their father. And then we started talking, I asked you about how did you get interested in, because you made a name for yourself in Svalbard, to the point to where you're working on a book project right now as we speak. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So that was perfect. So that's where I was trying to go. So I'm basically starting to look at Svalbard more as a home than just a job. And the thing about Svalbard is everyone comes there, they take what they want, they take money, and then they leave. And I didn't understand. I felt like no one was giving anything back to this place. And you know, I spoke to this guy one day and I was like, why is it like this? And he said, you have to understand that people are from, you know, Oslo, they're from here, they're from there, but nobody really says they're from Svalbard. And then that kind of hit me. I was like, so nobody really feels like it's like people say, oh, it's our home. But at the same time, it's like people do things on the mainland, for example, composting, growing their own food. And then it's like, soon as people get on that plane to go to Longyearbyen, they leave all of that at the airport. Yeah. You know, and then they just follow what's happening there. So in Svalbard, it's like actually Longyearbyen and Svalbard has one of the highest CO2 outputs per capita in the world.
Whoa!
And like if it was
again, that is news to me.
Yeah,
that
Svalbard
is news.
And Longyearbyen has one of the highest CO2 outputs per capita.
That's amazing.
And if it was its own country, it would be like Qatar or one of these countries in the UAE, like how high they have it. Because the main thing is we have one of Norway's only coal power plants. Everything has to be shipped from Tromsø, 1,500 kilometers up. And not only that, all of the garbage has to be shipped back to Tromsø. And then we have some local stuff, we have fish, but up until now, they haven't allowed the fish to be used locally. They're working on making it like a local fish industry. They've been talking about it for years. But that means that our fish there has to be sent down and we can only buy it back frozen.
That sounds so counterintuitive. That sounds crazy.
You can use it. You can fish for private use, but you can't fish to sell it.
That sounds crazy.
So, yeah. And then we have reindeers, but there's not so many reindeers. And like if 5 people want to apply to have a reindeer, maybe 3 people get, and you only get 1 reindeer for a whole year. So it's not much meat. We have some birds, but you're not allowed to bother the birds. So it's like we have a few edible plants, but it's not enough for everybody to go and kind of forage and pick the plants. So it's like, it's insane. Like, and like my thoughts at this point were that, okay, I want to do my project, because when I went to Svalbard, like I mentioned before, I had been working so much before I went to Svalbard. And then when I got a job on Svalbard, I was only working 7.5 hours a day and I had all of this free time.
Yeah.
So then I was like, what do I want to do with all of this time? Because before I would just work and I wouldn't have time to think about all of the time. So then I started to think and do all of the things that I wanted to do back in the States that I didn't have time to do. So I wanted to start like my own garden. I wanted to start doing music. I was DJing at this nightclub there where they have this one little kind of bar.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a similar situation. They were looking for a DJ. And I never DJed before, but I always loved music. I always, this kind of thing. Yeah. So it was kind of similar. So then I sent them my information, and I was a chef at the hotel at that time. So I sent them like a chef resume for a DJ. And then the assistant manager was like, yeah, but this guy's not a DJ. 2 people interviewed me. Yeah. And then the big manager was like, chef, DJ, same shit. Just give him a try.
I love it, man.
So then I started to DJ, and that's like, I needed a place to practice my music because the equipment started to take over the house. So I found this place that had like 3 rooms, and like one room, of course, I needed for music equipment, but then there was another room that used to be like a bakery. And I was thinking, what to do here? So then I was like, I'm going to start to grow food. And like I bought some hydroponic machines and I started to grow all different types of things. And like this project didn't start from me wanting to change the world. It didn't start from me wanting to be green. It just started from me wanting to have the freshest food. Because like I told you, my history was always to have fresh food. And I just started to grow for fun. And then it kind of evolved because, I had to buy fertilizer, and to ship the fertilizer up was expensive. Like I could buy it from UK, for example, it was 25 pounds for like a 5-liter thing. And then it would be 25 pounds to ship it. Yeah. So it was expensive. And I was thinking, wow, this can't be smart. There has to be a smarter way. So I started to go down this rabbit hole of like just finding out about different ideas and just experimenting. Yeah. So then I decided I wanted to compost. And I was like, I need worms, but you're not allowed to bring anything to Svalbard. That's right. Yeah. So I wanted to have worms. So I had to apply for permission. And then they had this professor at the university center there called UNIS. It's like the university there. He wrote a paper saying that the worms can be bad if I put them with the bird, for example, where the birds hang out, because then they can continue. But I told him I want to keep them in a room and like have containers. And he said it shouldn't be a problem as long as I don't take them to certain areas. Okay. So that was like, then I got like half permission, and then the final permission had to come from the Norwegian Environmental Agency. Then it took like 6 months later, and they finally approved for me to have worms. And I can imagine these Norwegians scratching their heads like, what does this crazy American guy want to do with worms, But I have permission.
A 6-month process just to be allowed to have worms. Yeah.
Yeah. So then I finally got permission. I remember I brought some worms with me from Florida. I think I started with like 1,000 worms. I don't remember exactly, like 100 worms or something. 500 worms, and then I started, and then it became like 1,000, and they just kept producing. I was like composting, like I was collecting things from the restaurant because I was a head chef at a restaurant there. And I was collecting my organic waste. I started to compost it. So it just kind of evolved. I was just learning more about how the island worked. And another thing that kind of got me thinking was that when, a guy one day when I was working at the hotel, he came up to me, and like we had these huge garbage disposals. You press a button and you just drop all of the waste in there, and then it just grinds it all up, and then it magically disappears. Yeah. So I don't know. I just was naive. I just thought it just disappeared. And then one day a guy tapped me on my shoulder, and he said, "Do you know what happens to that after it goes there?" I said, No, what happens to it? He says, "It goes directly into the sea." And then I was like, oh, wow. Huh. So everything from the pipes gets piped directly into the sea. Huh. There's no treatment facility. There's no,
just straight up.
So then, when someone says something like that to you, it woke me up. I was like, okay, this is much deeper than I realized. So then after I found out that all of the everything you put in the toilet, everything you put down the sink, it just gets piped directly into the sea. And then they said, the local government there says, oh, but it's good circulation and this and that. But I just didn't see the point of shipping up all of these resources for such a high price, dumping it into the sea, and then shipping it back up. So I just started to work like, how could I make a circle? How could I make it so that there's no waste, no waste? So then I started I had bought like a better composter, and it just kept growing and growing. And I was getting like support from all over. And it was just a small project, but I think it was just the meaning behind it is what people gravitated to so much. And I just like, people were just so fascinated.
Well, it's that idea of create a circle of use. A productive circle of energy, of energy use, of product use, so that nothing is wasted, because it's a waste to just throw it out into the ocean. There's something that can be done with that in the form of composting, which then can go towards sustainable food production.
Yeah, exactly. So it just kept growing and going like that. And then I just kept growing and growing. And then we started to grow vegetables, and we put them inside of the local supermarket. And then it was nice. So we had our greens there, and it was like,
what kind of production?
The first time.
How big of a production?
Microgreens and herbs. We were growing like, what is it called? Peas and radish. And then we also had herbs like basil. We were growing like, want to say parsley. We didn't have a big.
How big of a production did you measure it in pounds or kilograms?
At one point, we would sell a tray. A tray had like 20 pots in it, and we were selling that for like 450 kroners per tray.
Okay.
And then the herbs we were selling for 35 kroners per pot, I think. And at the peak, we were selling maybe 20 trays per week.
Okay. So that sounds like it was financially viable, that it was
getting there. It was getting there. Yeah. Everything was going. And then like the food production was the main reason I started it. But the main moneymaker for us was tourism. Because we were doing tours, I was doing like cooking classes.
People get curious about that.
Yeah. So the main money was coming from tourism, and like, you know, that's where the bread and butter was for us. So it just kept evolving. You get a lot of volunteers, a lot of interns, a lot of people interested. And then everything was going great. 2019 was an amazing year. And then 2020, with the COVID, they shut down all the tourism, and then everything just died. Yeah, everything just died.
Yeah.
And so it was really tough to climb out. And it also became very political on Svalbard.
How so?
Well, you know, in Norway, it's supposed to be like follow the rest of Europe, and they have it, you know, they can't really base it on where you're from or this and that. But on Svalbard, they started to base it on who was Norwegian and who was not Norwegian. And so the government shut down the island, but then like it was like some critical money that was needed to get the businesses back together. And they decided that the money would only be used for Norwegian-owned Norwegian companies.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that meant us non-Norwegian owners just have to deal with it.
Lost, yeah.
But it was like very critical at the time. It was very critical to get that money, and I wasn't able to get it, and I wasn't able to keep it going. So I had to file bankruptcy and just let it go. But then after I filed the bankruptcy, kind of like I was so depressed. You know, I was so depressed after that. Yeah, I was so depressed.
But you weren't finished. You still have that adventurous spirit. You still have that desire for self-development and for doing something that's meaningful for the society around you. What did that bankruptcy lead to?
Yeah, so then what happened was I just left it alone. I took a new position on Lofoten. I run a restaurant here. And then I kept getting comments from people. You know, and there was just one comment that kind of pushed me over the edge. Like normally I get the comments and I just say, yeah. But this lady, I think she's in Trondheim or something like that. She said, you know, Benjamin, I know you're bankrupt. I know that things look bad. But she said, you have inspired me so much. And I just kept getting these kind of messages like, oh, you inspired me. Oh, this project, this, oh, this, that. And then she said, because of what you've done, I bought a small hotel. I'm setting up a farm. I'm modeling it how you did it. And I just wanted to say thank you. And that just kind of made me feel like, you know what? It's bigger than just what was there on Svalbard. It's much bigger than that. And so then I started to think, I was like, you know, I was thinking about all of the experiences I had, everything I learned. And then I kind of came up with this, the mistakes that I made. I started going through the mistakes that I made. And I was thinking, how could that all have worked differently? And I was thinking like 10 things that I wish I would have known before that would have helped me to, you know, move things much quicker and much better. So then I was like, you know, I'm going to write a book about it. You know, I'm going to write a book because it's kind of necessary. And I feel like I just need to get it out of me. And like, it's just all these thoughts are inside of me and I need to get them out.
I look at it like the phoenix rising out of the ashes of that bankruptcy comes beautiful positive feedback from people, and that fed your idea to writing this book, and now that book is going to rise up from all of that.
I hope so, because like, you know, it's just I'm unfolding. It's unfolding as I'm writing it. I kind of came up with an outline for it. I'm on to chapter 3 now. There'll be 10 chapters, and it's just basically things that I wish I would have known before. That took me all these years to learn that I wish I would have known before, and I just hope that it can inspire others, that people can take something from it and apply it to their lives. And
well, just like you wanted to have a viable and self-sustaining food production on Svalbard. You wanted to give back to Svalbard. You talked about how everyone takes their experience, their money and whatnot, and then they just leave. You are building something that could be left there on Svalbard that can give back. Now you're giving back to these people who have given you the feedback, telling you that you inspire them. You're giving back to them by putting your experience and your maybe a combination of mistakes and successes with what you did. You're giving back to these people by putting it in book form. And I guarantee you that that's going to help some people. I know it's going to inspire people. You've already done that. And now the book is going to inspire and help and guide people who want to do similar work like what you have done.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's not even so much about, like, for me, I just feel like we all have these impossible missions in us that people say, oh, it can't be done. And I remember how many people laughed at me when I said I wanted to do this. They called me crazy, you know, and all I said, I remember the day I was around a group of people and I said, I'm going to make Svalbard green, you know, and they looked and they were laughing. And I was like, yeah, it's okay. But like, I said that, I remember I said that I'm going to make it green here. And everything I've been doing has been working. Like, it was never about me. I was doing that for the place. Because like I said, the choice was for me came down before. It was like, well, I can go to Florida and do this, or I can do it here. And something was like, well, what are you waiting for? Just start. So then I started doing it, and I agreed to do it on Svalbard.
Isn't that the answer to a lot of people want to do things and they just can't seem to get started. But isn't that the answer? Just get started.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be all planned out. You don't have to have everything you need to have success, but just get started. And then you'll start seeing the micro challenges within that overall task that you want to complete. You'll see the micro challenges. And as you solve those smaller challenges, you're getting closer and closer to your end result. And you can't get that unless you just start.
That's right. I remember when we were building this dome greenhouse, because I bought this greenhouse from a guy who was in Alaska at the time, this dome greenhouse that everybody kind of saw. And like, he built it in Alaska, he packaged it into a crate, and then he shipped it to me. Wow. And then I can remember getting this, opening this crate, and like, okay, what do? We had no idea what we were doing. And then it was so interesting because it was like the right person would come at the right time, get us to another step, and then that person would go. And then someone else would come, take us to the next step, and then that person would go. So it was like I was just learning how to work with people and how it wasn't about me. It was like it was coming from somewhere else.
And that's what it's all about. If you're open, if you are receptive to positivity and positive people, that openness, that willingness to be open to suggestion and to help from others will push you further along on your journey. And you're a living testament to that.
Yeah, and that's how the whole project's been. It's just been people coming, bringing their knowledge, spending their time, and then they go. And then it just kind of kept, like you said, like a snowball, just kept getting bigger and bigger. And eventually we got to a point where it made sense.
Yeah. What is this thing where people have to be, you said people laughed at you, and I can identify with that. There's things I'm doing with my podcast and with my radio program, and people laugh.
Yeah.
I got some hate here just in the past week from people online. Another American in Norway putting out hate. And it's like, that's no good. Where does that come from? Why can't we all just support each other?
John, I think that it seems bad, but from my experience, I think we need those kind of people because they push us. They
speak on
like
that.
I can't speak for you, but I can speak for me. And like, all I know is that if I didn't have some of those situations, then I probably wouldn't have pushed as hard as I did because I was doing it to spite those people,
I agree with you 100%.
And I was doing it to, So
I was going to say, I'm sorry to interrupt, but as frustrating as that negative element can be, I turn it into inspiration. And then you also have to and you also have to have the maturity and the self-analysis. You have to go through that self-analysis process and think, okay, this person who's hating, these people who are negative, is there anything to it? Are they right in some way? You know what I mean? So you have to do that, or I do that self-analysis. Like, you know what? He's being an asshole, but he is right about that one point. So maybe I need to work on that. You see what I'm saying? So, and I'll take that negative feedback and try to turn it, or not try, but turn it into some form of motivation. And it will always cause me to go into that self-analysis phase. And when you analyze yourself, that's growth. That's what that's called. Yeah. It's called growth. Yeah. So
I agree. Yeah. And I think also it's just like you said, it just helps us to correct course, because sometimes we can get off course.
Absolutely.
You know? And like you said, if there's something valid to it, then we should be able to accept that. But if it's just like all, negative kind of things, if it's nothing constructive, then I just like in one ear and out the other ear, and I'm just grabbing the bits and pieces that make sense that I can use to get better. Because for me, I think I don't really see it as we're in any competition. I think we're in competition with ourselves to become the best us that we can become. Yes.
I believe that, I have my journey. I have my things that I want to get done, but my eyes are always open to, that's why I do this podcast and this radio show. I want to talk to people like you, people who motivate me, people who inspire me, people who I think I can learn something from.
I agree.
And again, I feel that we have to be open to that, regardless of what kind of journey we're on. We have to be open to the perspective of others. We are a community,
I think that's where the creativity comes from, John. Because
I think so.
Like I think like, and how something that it made me inspired one day was when someone, like, especially when you're like an artistic and very creative person, you have to kind of look at something and think how it would translate into another medium. For example, if you see a painting and then you imagine, how would this sound, or if you see something, you say, how would this taste? That's where the creativity comes from. So I don't see why. I think we should be able to listen to many different viewpoints and be able to get something, process it and get something out of it.
You are a very creative, deep thinking brother. You're not finished. You're going to write this book.
Yes, I'm excited.
And then something else is going to happen after that. Are you thinking that far ahead? What's next for you further down the line?
I think the goal now is to get the book done. And then I just take it step by step, because I'm still working here, getting this restaurant organized. I don't want to get too, like, that's also one of my weaknesses. I like to put too many fires into the, irons into the fire. For me now, I think I want to focus on getting this book done. And my goal has been focusing 30 minutes per day to write.
That's beautiful.
So, you have to break it down into manageable chunks, because otherwise it doesn't get done. So I'm focused 30 minutes per day. I just write.
So 30 minutes a day. You don't think about a certain number of words. You just think you're going to focus on it for 30 minutes. Or
I do it for 30 minutes, and then I post a 1-minute video, just kind of updating. So the video for me, I post it on all my social media. It's kind of like accountability for me. See. Like, I don't care if people watch it. If they don't watch it, it's not my problem. But
it's
the thing
accountability for you.
Yeah, I do the 30 minutes that I say I'm going to do, and I document it and talk about what I covered, during this 30 minutes.
That's beautiful.
So it's like the journey. I'm trying to enjoy the journey, and I'm not so much worried about the destination. Yeah, the book's going to get done. Yeah. It's definitely going to get done. But like my problem before, I wouldn't say problem, but my thing before was that I was always so focused looking ahead at, the destination, that you miss all of the beauty, all of the magic in making it,
Well, that 30 minutes of focusing on the writing right there, that can be a very grounding experience that keeps you in the moment and pulls you back if you start looking too far ahead. So that's a very good idea, man. 30 minutes a day. So, who can't cut out 30 minutes of their day for themselves? Anybody can.
But it's harder than it seems.
Exactly.
It's harder than it seems.
Exactly. You have to put that effort into doing that. But once you start doing it, and once you start reaping the benefits of taking that time out for yourself, it becomes a lifestyle. It's not something that you have to do anymore. It becomes a habit, a good habit. It becomes part of your lifestyle.
That's right. So I just focus on the 30 minutes, and then I also, have a lot of things to do for the restaurant. So I can't like focus too much on everything else. But like, as long as I give my 30 minutes first, like I like to do it in the morning when I wake up, then I do the 30 minutes, get it done, and then I can go on with my day.
Where you living in Lofoten?
Ballstad. It's like the largest fish. Yeah, it's Spitzbergen. It's the largest fishing village here. It's a beautiful place. I really loved it. I love the restaurant. I love the access to all of the, like, everything that I was trying to do on Svalbard, it's already available here.
Yeah.
So it's like a totally different experience. There it was nothing. I was building it from nothing, and then here everything is here. So it's like, I guess it was meant for me to progress like that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, so everything works out. See, people.
It works out.
For anybody that's listening, most things work out. Most things work out. You have that hard time. You know, you had to go through a bankruptcy. You had to stop the work you were doing with Svalbard, but look what it brought you to. Yeah.
And I think that's also important because sometimes we're doing the work and maybe it's not the best thing for us to be doing. And sometimes it's hard to stop, you know, because you're so like, there's a line, you know, there's a line between, you know, people say, well, keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. There's a line that you have to stop.
Yes. Yeah.
You know?
Well, that goes back to that self-evaluation that I talked about. We have to go through these periods of introspection, and we have to analyze ourselves and just check ourselves, if you will, and find, you know, take a look around. Am I where I need to be? Am I doing what I truly want to do, or am I ignoring other aspects of my life that I would like to work on? You know, stop up and take that evaluation, and then move forward. That's my advice to everybody.
I like to look at it like more like, you know, my time on Svalbard, I was more like a caterpillar. And I was afraid of becoming a butterfly because I didn't understand. And I just kept doing it the same way. But then the way everything happened, it allowed me to be able to go into cocoon. And then I came out as a butterfly. And then I feel like much lighter. I feel like I can see, I have a better view, because before a caterpillar, you're just on the tree. You don't really see. Yeah. Now I'm a butterfly. I can float around. I can see, I can observe better. So I kind of like to equate it to that kind of situation.
Listen, Benjamin, let me ask you something. As we wind this up, I want to ask you to do two favors for me. Okay. Like I said, the whole purpose of my program here is to have these conversations with people like you, people who motivate me, inspire me, people who I think I can learn something from. And you fit all three of those categories.
Oh, thank you so much.
I call you friend and I call you brother.
We are friends. Yeah.
Let me ask you to do this for me. Just as you have inspired me, you know, if we go back to the beginning of the conversation where I started off with a less than positive statement, but you showed me how, you know, perspective can show that things aren't really as bad as they are. Is there something you can say to my listeners and to my viewers, some words of encouragement, just a couple of sentences that you think people can take with them and carry them forward through their journey in life? What's your advice to my viewers and my listeners right now?
My advice would be that, you know, to keep dreaming, because as soon as you stop dreaming, everything's dead. To keep dreaming and to start now, you know, and impossible is not as impossible as you think it is. You know, I remember there's a lot of press, a lot of articles. Oh, and it was impossible for him to do this, impossible for that. But you have to make do what you can with what you have.
Yes.
And don't worry about what you don't have. Just focus on what you have right now and start now. That would be my advice. Whatever it is you want to do, you can do it.
I love it.
But you have to start it. You have to start it now.
I love it. Thank you for that. I'm sure people can use that in their day-to-day lives. And here's the last thing I'd like to ask of you. I'm going to say 3 words, and then I'd like for you to finish the sentence. One sentence. Okay? Benjamin Vidmar is?
Benjamin Vidmar is ready for 2022. I'm ready for 2022. I'm ready to, you know, finish this year up, start a new year, go in with a positive attitude, and just
ready for 2022.
You know, we just have to do it. We are the ones. So we have to be the change we want to see. We are the ones who are going to make everything better. So
amen. I think that's beautiful words from a beautiful and loving brother like yourself.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Look, man, I want to say this, and I mean this. You are one of the most interesting minds, American minds, in Norway.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You have made me very curious about the way you live your life, very curious about the way you do the things you do. I'm looking forward to your book coming out. When you know a date on when your book is coming out, let me know, and I'm going to push it. I'm going to push that out there to anybody who's listening or watching, because I know it's going to be good for me to read. If I can get something out of it, I'm sure everybody can. So I'm looking forward to that book coming.
I appreciate it. I'm self-publishing. I'm doing it all myself. So it's a whole process of learning how to do it.
Beautiful.
So I don't have it. It's not like I have some big publisher and it's set in
this is
so
your
I have
project.
No idea.
It's
all
project,
me. And I have no idea when it's going to be done. But for me, the main goal is to just get it written and get it all on paper. And then I have to, of course, edit and have proofreading and this and that. So, but it's going to take some time. But I keep everyone updated. Just follow on my social media.
Where do they find you? Where can they find you on social media?
Well, I mainly post on TikTok because I do like a 1-minute video and then I share it to all the other media. So I think on TikTok it's author Benjamin. And then everywhere else is Benjamin Vidmar or Benjamin L. Vidmar. So you just put that in and it should pop up.
Well, I'm pulling for you. I'm pushing for you. I want to wish you all the best in everything you do. This is not the last time we speak. When your book is released, or when there's anything else going on in your life of significance, I'm going to be in touch. I'm going to ask you to come back.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate you, Benjamin. Thank you so much for gracing my program. I'm pulling for you, man. I love you to death. Thank you so much.
I love you as well. Happy New Year to you and your family, and all the best for 2022.
Thank you so much. Happy New Year to you and your family as well, Benjamin.
Okay.
Benjamin Vidmar, everybody. Bye now.